I'm Steve Fearn. I'm one of the co-coordinators of the Animas River Stakeholders Group. There's three of us. There's Peter Butler, who is currently the chairman of the Water Quality Control Commission, and Bill Simon, who's been our coordinator since pretty much the beginning of the process. We've been around since about 1994. As we saw on some of the maps earlier today, Silverton is white on the edge of the Silverton caldera, and the mining region goes all the way around that. Silverton was the first county seat in western Colorado in 1874. There was some activity there before. As usually was the case in the west, activity became mining actually started in many areas when the land didn't really belong to us, belonged to the tribe, in this case belonged to the Utes, and then when things became really interesting, the United States worked out a treaty with the Utes to remove them. So, the peace treaty was signed in 1973 after some mining operations actually were happening in place in the San Juans, and so that's kind of when things started. We have a lot of legacy mine sites in San Juan County, Upper Animas River Basin. This is the headwaters of the Animas River. And there's a lot of impact from past mining. There's also significant impact from the natural background, because this is it's a volcano. They put this volcano, and it's highly mineralized. That's where the mines are there. So water quality, we know in the streams is not super, and for many years it just let's just accept that that's the way it was. Then the Water Quality Control Commission finally came up against the wall and said we have to set stream standards, and they looked at it and they said we don't know what to do with it. So that was really the beginning of the formation of the Animas River Stakeholders Group, because they came to the community and said, are you interested in forming a dialogue and seeing if we can work together to see what to do, help define it, and see what we can do with it. There also was a significant threat of making the whole county a Superfund site. That was not well received locally. So that also was a driver in the process. So we started in '94, and the idea was to have everybody come to the table. The early meetings we started for some time when maybe 70 or 80 people to our monthly meetings, and we had folks from all ends of the spectrum. And I like to kind of describe it as a big oval, and you had on one end you had the folks that thought it could be returned to the quote pristine area that it was. You have other folks on the other end that says, you can't do anything about it, so what's it all about? Why bother? And over time, we gradually came together. And one thing we could agree on was we wanted to improve water quality in the Animas River. And the other thing we agreed on was let's look at the truth. Let's find out what it's about. So that's where we started. And the focus, again, is mediating mine sites, what we can do. Who are the stakeholders of the Animas River Stakeholders Group? It's anybody that comes to the table. It's an open table. We are not an organized entity, and I think that somebody else mentioned that this morning. A lot of people have said, well, why don't you organize? You become a 501c3. The problem is that once you decide to organize, you have to decide who gets how many votes. And we were fairly certain in our case we would lose people from the table. So it was more important to us to make sure we had people at the table, and we were focused on ideas. So here's some of the stakeholders with federal agencies, the BLM, the Forest Service, Geological Survey, EPA, Bureau of Reclamation. These are all our partners. The state agencies, the RMS, what used to be Department of Wildlife, Department of Parks and Wildlife now, I guess, Water Quality Control Division, Department of Health, and other capacities, and at that time the Colorado Geological Survey. Local government had both county governments and town governments, Sowerton and Durango, because Durango is down the street, and so is Pine County. The ministry we had, this was some of the mining companies we had involved. I'll say there's two kinds of mining companies when you get into something like this. They're the folks that want to pull out of the district and go on to something else, and trying to get out their permits. And there are folks that want to come into the district and do something. And they have a common interest in improving water quality, but from that point, it's kind of divergent sometimes. So all mining interests are not the same. And so this is, some of the differences that we dealt with. And we have other entities, sometimes called NGOs, San Juan Citizens Alliance, Travel Limited, Friends of the Animas River, the San Juan County Historic Society, Mountain Studies Institute, River Watch, Trust for Land Restoration, and then individuals, citizens of the Animas River Basin, anywhere in the basin. So it's a pretty broad group, and that's still pretty much the interest we have at the table. Our approach, as I mentioned, we're not a formal entity. We do use the San Juan Resource Conservation Development Council as our 501c3. We do all the grant preparation and writing and so forth, but the administration receive the grants, administer the funds. So that gives us a path to get to use grant funds. Again, anyone who wants to be a stakeholder can participate, and you can come to one meeting, you're a stakeholder from that standpoint. Again, we're interested in ideas. We make decisions by informal consensus. That's, what's a consensus? There's all kinds of definitions of consensus, but you have to have something that's workable. It kind of means that there's no major objections. We don't try to assign blame. We're not interested in assigning blame. We're interested in solutions. We're not interested in who's responsible for what. We don't get involved in permitted sites, because if the site's under permit, it's being addressed within the structure that we have, regulatory structure that we have in place. We started out by characterizing abandoned mine sites, inactive mine sites, all the ones in our basin. We looked at 185 uranium mines and 200 waste piles. We looked at feasibility reclamation of all these sites. We prioritized top candidates for remediation. And based on that, we found that about a little over 30 uranium mines and about 35 mine waste dumps contributed 80% of the metal loading that men cause metal loading in the basin. So those were our focus. Those are the areas that have been our focus. We also proposed water quality standards based on our remediation feasibility in working with the Water Quality Control Division. And to back that up, we developed with the division 2017 TMDLs, total maximum daily load classifications, and which forms the basis to support the water quality standards. And the Water Quality Control Division did adapt the standards that we proposed, and we continue to review those every 3 years. They do review those, and we work with them on that. So far, we've remediated over 50 sites. Projects completed. Most of those are mine dumps. The reasons that we talked about earlier today on the Good Samaritan issues, the potential liability issues. One thing I didn't hear mentioned this morning on that issue, the big issue, I would say that we can work with EPA. There are different degrees of working with EPA, but you can work with EPA. The problem we cannot overcome with the current legislation is the potential of third-party lawsuits. You make a deal with EPA, make an agreement, you follow that, thinking you're fine. You have a third-party entity comes in, files a lawsuit against EPA, said, you shouldn't have entered into that agreement. You get a federal judge that agrees with that, and you thought you covered. And that's the problem, that's the real problem under the current legislation. That's the one problem that cannot be addressed by EPA. And the current memorandum they put out does recognize that. Walks all around that issue. What they've done is to give us, to mention to everybody, The senators and some others, what they responded to was a great effort to see what can be done under the existing law. And there's a limitation, there's a wall there. So that's the one where we have to keep working to try to get a Good Samaritan provision, modification, some protection that works. Now, the Animas Stakeholders Group has written their own legislation as a pilot project on the Animas. We thought, well, maybe we can get that through, since we can't seem to get through the fight with everybody for a general revision, and do a demonstration project. And we've had that introduced twice by two of our congressmen in the past. Unfortunately, it hasn't gone anywhere, but I think we just keep working at the problem until we get it solved. One of the things I was asked to talk about today is water quality database. It's a critical key to working together. It's part of how you determine what do you need, what's going on, and you're making any progress. The way we did this was we had all the entities got together basically, and we agreed upon using the same sampling protocols. So if you have a database that everybody can use, we have one posted on our website, and we update it, and it's there for everyone to use. But water quality, we sample two things. We look at water quality, and we do biological monitoring also, because water quality alone by itself isn't really always an indication. As Bruce Stope mentioned earlier today, what standard applies at what stream, under what hardness, and what species you're looking to protect. Those are different. So you want to look at what the total picture, what you're really looking for. What we're really looking for is a biological community. That's the real target. The other problem we ran into was the lab reports that come back from different labs or in various forms. It makes it difficult to download, and we have to sort through that. But you have to have enough information to be able to interpret the data and put it together. Just what do you bother to do this? There's a few ideas. If you participate, you get a seat table on how the data is collected and analyzed. That's important. And you include your resources by coordinating various water quality objectives with different entities. This can be met less expensively. Everybody doesn't have to take a sample every place that way. You can trust somebody else's work. Collecting it systematically makes it more useful. Obviously, we try to identify each sample point and have in the basin, and they're numbered and identified, and GPS locations. If you do data collection together, it's a good way to build trust. Trust is the key. You have to trust the data and trust the procedures that have gone into getting the data. Working together, you can reduce conflicts over the data, and potentially the expense of having to collect more data. Good database is a good way to demonstrate what's the truth on the ground. We have lots of perceptions of what the truth is, but what is really the truth? That's been one of the big issues. You want to know where it's coming from, what's in the past, and what's what's from natural sources, what's from legacy mines, or if there are new mine sites in the area. A good database helps prioritize where more data collection or investigation should be targeted. Use your baseline reference in the future, and to gauge against, have you made a difference? And it helps prevent trying to set unrealistic water quality standards. That was one of the things that drove us in the beginning, because some of the initially proposed standards, that wasn't any way. So here's a few examples. Just people have shown some really nice things today. This is in the Mineral Point area, just on the other side of the pass, in Sheer Pass. This was a site called Lucky Jack Mine waste dump. You should see here an aerial view. This is after remediation. We basically pulled the dump out of the drainages, reconsolidated, and there was an added couple of shafts there. And then we took, when we moved the material, we took what there was of topsoil, if you will, set it aside, moved the material, and then we used that material to go back on top. And this is what it looks like now. So you can make a difference, even at that elevation. This is right across the road from Denver Lake. You know where Denver Lake is up there. Now, one of the biggest problems initially we identified was Middle Creek, which starts at Red Mountain Pass. And primarily on the east side of Middle Creek. A lot of mines. So the first one was the Longfellow shaft here. And you can see what it looked like. And this is afterwards. This was a project done by Sunnyside Gold Corporation on their own. And one of the things that is a big issue in San Juan County is the historical structures and the idea of the mine dumps, the shape of the sites. But I could say mine dumps are beautiful. They're important to our tourist industry. People come to tour and see old mine sites. That's part of it. So that's part of what we try to incorporate in our reclamation process. Another site, this was the Kohler Adit, which is right up here. It's a cross-cut in underneath another mine. And you can see it had a nice dump here and a nice little pond of water here. This dump was moved to a repository site by Sunnyside Gold. It's one of their reclamation projects. They had a tailings pond they were getting ready to close, but they used that as a repository site for a number of reclamation projects. So that went away, cleaned it up, and you can see it's made a fair difference, certainly visually. Another site up in the same area is the San Antonio mine, and that Kohler crosscut actually came underneath this mine. And this is the dumps that were there before, and this is what it looked like afterwards. We also had another project that I'll show you in a second. Is an area, a trans-basin diversion where the water right went from Mineral Creek into the headwaters of the Mountain Creek, right across here. And it looked to us like it was a good opportunity for infiltration into this mine. And so we worked together with, this was a dish in the headwaters where it was gathered. This is afterwards, we reclaimed that. We bought the water right, and in terms of partnering, we used EPA funds, a grant, the $50,000 to buy the water right. And then the water right had to go somewhere, so it was accepted by the Southwestern Water Conservation District. And then the district donated it to the Colorado Water Conservation Board for an in-stream flow. We wanted to be sure that water wasn't refiled on and went somewhere else. We wanted that flow, that really good quality water, separate basin, flow down the Mineral Creek and have the impact of pollution. So, several projects up there. We go back just one to a couple to the Kohler. We talk about bulkheads as an opportunity. The Kohler tunnel still comes out here. We reopened the portal here. Went in 300 feet. We found it's privately owned. We found a small mining company who's willing to take on the liability for some reason. And Sunnyside Gold was wanting to put up the funds. So we put a bulkhead in this crosscut. It was draining about 130 gallons a minute of water, about pH of 2, and lots of metals in it. That bulkhead was successful in reducing it down to about 10 to 15 gallons a minute. But after 2 years, it could measure a difference downstream. But we wanted to do better. We had some fractures where water was coming around the bulkhead. So we worked with the RMS and others, and we designed a state-of-the-art grouting program. We went back in and high-pressure grouted that area. And a couple of years ago, and that's down to about a gallon a minute now. And that's keeping our fingers crossed. We'll see what happens in 4 or 5 years after everything is equalized. That's the kind of things you can do. So just moving forward a little bit here, does it make a difference? Fairly quickly, this is zinc. When we measure this at M34, which is the gauging station we have in Stope just before it flows into the Animas River. So that picks up everything upstream. We started in 1992, 1995. This was the loading of zinc. This is by month. This is a typical month. It's a compilation of these years. So we were up here. The 2006 to 2010 is this line here. And this line is the standard it was set. So you can see we're essentially meeting the standard, very close to the standard on zinc. We've removed out 50% of the zinc out of the stream, of the load. We've got a couple more projects when we do that stream, but I think that's one of the three that comes together in Stope. It's good. Copper is very similar in a way. This was the beginning. This is the standard, and we're meeting the standard of copper. We removed about 70% of the copper out of the stream. Cadmium, gains not quite as good. This was where we were. This is where we are now, and this is the standard. We're getting very close to meeting the standard. I know we're short on time, so I'll just make just one more example here, just to show we have some challenging, different kinds of challenges. This is the Friday of the West Stope. It was back in the 1870s. Old open stope. It was about 20 feet wide in here. That's at the base of a long slope. Comes down like this. Believe it or not, people like to go in and winter recreate in this area sometimes. And you can imagine somebody extreme skiing coming down the hillside, and goodness sakes alive. We also have a drainage flooded in here. So again, we partnered with the ARMS and others used to be PA funds. And this was a combined safety closure and a infiltration project. So what we did is put steel beams across this with a helicopter, and then we welded steel plate across those, sealed it on both ends, and then we coated that with a rubber coating to try to provide long-term corrosion resistance. We had a little trouble with rubber coating, and we go back and maintain that because the ice tends to scrape that off the steel. But you can see the stream coming down right here. That, we're running a little short on time. Questions anytime, maybe after we're done this year. No, we got time? Okay, sure.
Where's that Pride of the West Stope located?
Cunningham Gulch.
What?
Cunningham Gulch. If you're familiar with Stony Pass, Stony Creek comes in just down about a half a mile below this in Cunningham Gulch. Cunningham Gulch, for the way, is one of our areas of good water quality. And on the Animas, this is some feeds in the Animas, the main stem of the Animas, which comes up just to the side of the hill here. We have a good fishery from just above Silver and the Raster Gulch up to Mini Gulch, and that's improved. So we're seeing that. We're seeing some improvement in water quality there. We have more projects to do, but we've made some gains there. One that's really outstanding, our big problem is what I call kind of an experiment didn't quite work out. It's in Cement Creek. It's in the old downside Gladstone. The Sunnyside mine came out about 2 mile long tunnel. And so part of the closure process, which is agreed to by the state as well as Sunnyside Gold, they put in 3 bulkheads in that 2 mile area. And they took the drainage down from 1,500 gallons a minute to about 100 gallons a minute. Unfortunately, resize grade the mountain, that was predicted. But we now have, coming out of some other adits, almost 800 gallons a minute. Now, not very good water. So that is our primary focus right now, is on that problem. It actually is our compliance in terms of our project is the Animas River below Stope, because that's where everything comes together. And we actually have degraded in that area because of this problem. So that's our next challenge.